Good morning, everybody. I am, as you can tell, not Sean Campbell. Sean is volunteering over at the Arizona Bowl today, helping that go off without a hitch. I am filling in for him. And I have here with me today Star Hansen of Reveal by Star. According to your LinkedIn, you help remote and hybrid teams boost productivity and reduce chaos and clutter. So welcome, Star.
Thanks, Candace. It's so good to be here with you. That is accurate. I say that's fact-checked and true.
I robbed it directly off of your LinkedIn. So.
It's the safest bet, really.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to hop right in and start with a few questions here. So why don't you just start by telling us what you do and what is a clutter whisperer?
So my name is Star Hansen. I'm a certified professional organizer and clutter whisperer. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I help individuals and businesses to get out of their own way by managing the clutter in their life. And when I say clutter whisperer, it's more about understanding the deeper clues in our clutter. I look at the clutter not as this enemy that we need to annihilate, but really as a friend who's helping us understand ourselves more. So, for example, when you're in your office and if you have piles around you, I'm not interested in that you should have a clean desk all the time. I'm interested in why those piles are there. Are they serving you? Are they helping you in some way? What can we do systems-wise that would benefit you better than the current system, which is the piles, and using the clutter as evidence and information that helps deliver us into you being more productive, being happier, being stronger, being more centered and grounded. So really it's about using clutter as information rather than getting into this whole shame and blame game that often happens in clutter and productivity.
Okay. I was actually, as I was preparing for this morning, sitting around looking at my own piles.
Oh, good. You did your homework, so you would be ready for me today. Thank you for that.
I did, yes. I've been doing my homework for today for the last 43 years.
Good job. That's very committed. I'm really impressed.
Well, all right. So I would be a star student.
I love
it. So I admit I haven't read your entire book. I've read like half of it. And your LinkedIn and social media and stuff, and your TED Talk. That's really cool. You've been on a TEDx, right?
Yes, TEDx Tucson. It was so much fun. If anyone ever gets the chance to go to a TEDx Tucson event or be, so blessed to be a speaker, Mary Reed is the organizer, and she is just a powerhouse. She is just one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and to work with her, she's so collaborative, and it was such a special experience, really magical. So, and it's such a high quality event. Like, they really do a great job. I'm so grateful. I mean, me showing up and giving my presentation was one part, but it's like you're part of this family. Then I got together with someone this week who was a fellow from that event also. And it's like you bond in this really deep way. It's such a special event that she creates.
That's really cool. Yeah. So you said you are a certified organizer? Like there's actually a certification available to organize people's things?
Yes, organizers love to organize, including organizing ourselves. We are obsessed with organizing.
All right.
I want to put a label on myself. Yeah. So in the world of organization, you can get certified as a professional organizer through, oh my gosh, they've changed their name a few times. So NAPO is the acronym, but it's the National Association of Productivity Specialists and Organizers. And you basically have to have so much tenure, you have to have so many hours of work under your belt, and you have to do this entire course of study and this test. So there's only a handful of us that are certified because that's not fun, but it's also really important because you need to understand, I say organizing is an archaeological dig of your heart through your home, and it's not subtle. It's not boxes and labels. And that's a hard thing to talk about marketing. That has just been a beast of a challenge for me to manage, because if you want me to come in and make your house pretty while you're gone, I'm not your girl.
Right.
If you're interested in before and after pictures, I'm also not your girl. I'm interested in a much more holistic, deeper approach. I want to know that when I leave your life and home, your entire world is better, not just the one room that we organized. It's because it's all connected. Like, I really think our stuff is a way that we talk to ourselves, and it's a way that we are processing physically in our physical spaces. It's a way that we express our hopes and dreams. It's a way that we are, I mean, it's so layered. And so I think being certified or having some sort of credentialing is really helpful, because this is a very deep and delicate process. It's not, this is not for the faint of heart. This rarely is someone excited that I've come to their house. They're almost always in crisis and feeling very stressed out and overwhelmed and feeling ashamed. And, when you're working in that world, it's a requirement that we show up with a level of heart, understanding, and education and information that can support that need.
All right. Well, that's really interesting. I never knew organizing had a certification available for it.
You know what's hilarious? So we have also, in addition to our certification, we also have an annual conference, and you've never seen a happier group of people ever. We are just that, because we work alone all the time. We can't go, and because our work with people is private, so we can't talk about our clients. It's just for their own protection. But get us together and we can talk about label makers. We can talk about strategies. We're just the happiest group of people you've ever seen. Big organizing nerds taking over hotels and conference centers every year. It's a thing.
The organizers organization.
We're real.
So it sounds like you're kind of like a clutter therapist. You seem to take a different approach to organizing than people you'll see on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. So how you do things set you apart from everyone else in your industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am in love with the people in my industry. Everybody brings something different. Even the people who do the very, basic before and after pictures, or the, very superficial seeming process does major soul work. So for me, I'm so grateful for everybody in the way that they show up and share their gifts. But the way that I'm different is definitely I'm here to figure out what's causing your clutter in a very loving, non-shameful way. I'm here. We've had enough shame about our clutter. We've had enough drama about our clutter. Nobody needs to find out from, their neighbor that their clutter is out of control or be given advice. We don't need that. If you have clutter, you have clutter. It's not a surprise. No one's waking up to that on Christmas morning. Where did this come from? Oh, no. It's there. It's a part of your life. And generally speaking, when people come to me, they've been working on this for a long time and they're not getting the results that they want. And so for me, it's really about helping people understand how they fit into the equation and how their clutter's helping them. And when I say that, most people will look at me like I'm insane and say, Star, my clutter is absolutely not helping me.
Right.
This is not a thing. And I will lovingly challenge that and say, almost always it is. So for example, think about the weights on your living room floor. They're there to remind you to work out.
Right.
The Post-its on your computer are there to remind you to make those calls or to hire that massage therapist or whatever it is that they're reminding you to do. Feel inspired by looking at that quote. There's a level of being a reminder for sure. We might leave things out for our loved ones as a reminder for them to do things that we asked them to do 20 times that they still haven't done. So that's another reminder.
Right.
Sometimes we want to remind ourselves of things that we did wrong, that we want to go better. And so reminding is a great way, but there's several other ways that we use our clutter in order to get our needs met. And my job is really to help you figure out how clutter is helping you meet your needs and get that need met in a much more direct and healthy way.
All right. That's really interesting. So you have said in your LinkedIn, and you've said when we were talking before the show that you have helped professionals organize to make their business run better. And I think at a surface level, it's understandable how can an organized business run better, but how do you help someone and their business run better?
So the interesting thing about clutter is again, it's an archaeological dig. So you've got these layers of time and projects and things that are just queued up there. And what we want to do when we're looking at businesses is we want to get you caught up and in the present moment. We want to really get you to a place where you're not having stacks of stuff around you that is dragging you back towards old projects or who you were in the past, and really bringing you up into the present moment.
Okay. All right. So it's really about mindfulness.
Somewhat. I mean, one layer. So the beautiful thing about organizing is it's a blend of mindfulness, but also this practical application. So if you sat in therapy with me with a therapist for 8 hours, you'd be burned out.
Right.
After 2. But to organize or work on your productivity stuff, you're rocking into this state of actually applying what you're learning about yourself. So it's much more impactful than it seems like it would be.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got about 15 seconds left before they start the commercials on us. So thank you, Star, for being here today. We're going to head off to commercial, and we will be back with you in a few minutes. All right. We are back with Star Hansen, and apparently I forgot to introduce myself last time around because this is my first time ever being the actual host of a radio show. So Candace Eaton is my name. I am a photographer here in Tucson. I'm the owner of C. Eaton Photography, and I am a fill-in radio show host now, apparently.
And doing
also
a fabulous job.
Okay. Thank you, Star. All right. So I want to go back a little bit. We didn't discuss this in the last segment about what got you into organizing.
It was an accident. It was such an accident. It's like the best things in life are complete accidents. I love that we can plan all day long, and the best things that happen not on our timetable. So I was actually an actress at the time. And I remember I had built this organizing box because we had been given an assignment. We had these great admin classes at the acting school that I went to. And they basically said, okay, great. Think of 50 ways that you can make money without working, because they were trying to get us out of that starving artist mentality. And so I built this little box, this like accordion file box that had all these envelopes so that actors or other creatives who were not great with money or great with organizing could put all their receipts in there throughout the year and then just hand this little box to their CPA and say, there you go, do my taxes, because as an actor, you can write so much off because you're a business. And that was the first thing. And I sold a couple of those. Not I didn't get rich off of those. I wasn't going on to Shark Tank for that. But I did get a couple of people who said, oh, you're so organized. Can you help me? And it had never dawned on me because this was the early 2000s. So organizing wasn't what it is today. And I started doing this kind of as a trade with people. And I suddenly thought that I had invented a new career. I was like, oh, I love this. This feels so good. It's my calling. And, it was so beautiful. And then thankfully there was a group of magical women who had already started a career doing this like several decades before. So I got to just like walk into a pre-existing career with this, which was beautiful. But I left acting. I never looked back. And the interesting thing is I've done more television and appearances doing it as an organizer than I ever did as an actor. So it's
oh, cool.
Yeah. The thing that, I don't know, it's when it's meant to be, it will find you.
Right.
I always say, it's like people will always say, oh, how did you get that, the show with TLC? I'm like, I answered the phone. I don't have a great origin story where I had to fight. And I just feel like when you're in the flow and listening to the universe and doing what feels right to you, you will find the thing that you're meant to be doing.
Right on. That's a cool story, a cool origin story for this career. Now I have to ask, is your home like the cobbler's kids' shoes?
I'm gonna blow your mind. So I don't have a home right now.
Oh, okay.
8 months ago, more like a year ago, I had this idea. I was like, I went to digital nomad, and I put everything in storage, and I have been on the go for the last 8+ months, and it has been a very interesting experience. I thought, it's like they have those images online that it's like what I thought it would be like, what it's actually like. Like I thought I was going to be just this darling little thing with a backpack and a suitcase. And I do. I have the world's best backpack and suitcase. I am geared up to look adorable while I'm doing this. That is not how it goes. Like in real life, no. I have oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, because Smart Star is not in just Bali, only in Bali. She's like in the heat of the East Coast, and then she goes to Europe, and then she goes to New Mexico where it's snowing, and it's like you need clothes for all these things. And God bless anyone who can operate out of like jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt. I'm not that girl. I have to have clothes for keynote speeches. I have to have clothes for teaching. I have to have clothes for working with clients. It's like mama needs her clothes. That's a thing. And clothes has been definitely the biggest challenge. Like everything else, my books, my, decor, anything that's really important, I will get back to it when I get back to it. But the clothes thing as a woman has been a real challenge. So there's been a lot of shipping. There's been a lot of buying duplicates. It's actually really interesting. I find the idea of being a minimalist and being nomadic is a great idea, but it actually is way more expensive than I think most people think.
Oh, really?
You perceive, I'm not paying rent, or I'm staying at Airbnbs, or I'm, doing this thing.
Right.
But it really is, it takes a level of precision constantly. Like even right now, so I'm doing my next chapter in San Francisco. So when I'm here next to all my stuff in storage, I'm having to think 3 months out. What do I need?
Right.
How's this going to go? This is not how normal people live their life. They walk into their closet. They're like, it's hot. Give me my t-shirt. It's cold. A hoodie, please. I don't have that option. So it definitely, I always say it's like minimalism is not for the faint of heart, because it will require something of you. So I don't know how many more months I have left in me as a nomadic minimalist. It's not fun. It's just not a fun experience for me, but it might be for you, but it's just not for me. But it's been really great. So I will say that's when you choose to put things in storage or get rid of things, it really does make you aware. I think one of the things that people struggle with the most with their clutter is they've lived in the same house forever. They've lived in the same house for decades.
Right.
And when you're in the same place, it's so easy to just shove something in a corner or in a closet and you don't think about it again. And when you are on the go, I'm aware of every single thing that I have. And I'm aware when I'm missing something that I really need, and I want the right thing, not anything, So it really is like beneficial to live that life, but it's also incredibly stressful and can be quite wasteful. And I don't think that that's really talked about in the minimalist community enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I know I like really sold it there. Anyone who had like a fantasy is like, oh, man star. Why?
I've done that. Like every summer when it gets hot here, I try to pack up my car and disappear and see how long I can be gone for.
Ooh, I love it.
And like, you're right. Like you really have to think about the stuff you're going to take and the places you're going to go. And especially, in the summer when I'm going from the high desert here in Tucson to the top of a mountain range, and there's still snowpack on the ground. And
that's not even factoring in being a woman whose body fluctuates. I know very few people who like don't have some sort of body fluctuation over the course of a month, let alone several months. So it's like, is this so stressful?
Right.
Why?
I can't just take one pair of jeans. I do have to take 3.
Yes, exactly. Just in case. Totally.
Yeah. So it can be hard. And clutter is more obvious the less you have.
Yeah.
And the less space you have, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so previously you said that there are other ways that clutter helps us. You gave us one way as like reminders. What are some other ways that our clutter is actually helping us?
So one way, and I think a lot of people can resonate with this, is connection. Think about when someone you love passes away and we inherit their stuff. We feel connected to them with their stuff. So that's one of the reasons why people really struggle getting rid of things, because it's like, oh no, this was my aunt's and I love her and I feel connected to have it. And the truth is that hairbrush from your aunt that you're desperately holding on to, she might have never taken out of the package. She might have literally been given it at a white elephant party and never thought about it again. And you're like feeling that connection with her, even though it may not have been sentimental to her. But it's really interesting how we make meaning. So connection is one. Security is another. We saw this a lot during the pandemic, where people were hoarding items because we felt like we didn't get our needs met, or we may not get our needs met. And I've seen this with clients who, for example, grew up with no money. And they may have had one pair of jeans growing up. And fast forward to an adult where they can take care of themselves and put themselves into a nice house and have clothes. And I had one client who had 200 pairs of jeans.
Oh, goodness.
Because she had one pair growing up, and the level of shame and trauma that was there. And really those jeans showed us that she was really needing to heal from a trauma of lack and scarcity. And it wasn't, organizing's not going to do that. I can't show her the statistics on jeans and say, now get rid of jeans. Doesn't this make sense? Because trauma isn't logical. So she actually needed to get, I'm not a therapist. I have a therapeutic approach, but I'm not a therapist. So she actually needed to work with someone who specialized in trauma. And that was a really important part of her journey. Sometimes getting organized is not about having the right boxes and labels and systems. Sometimes it's about addressing the deeper root cause that can be really painful. And my stance is difficult for some people because they've spent a lifetime hiding from what's buried in their clutter. And so it can be really, really tricky. I've also seen people use clutter as protection. Some people, I had one client who had a break-in, and had a lot of things stolen, and he got really disorganized after that. And it's because, and this came out through many sessions and many months of working together. If he was organized, he perceived that people would be able to find his possessions more easily.
Oh, okay.
And so being disorganized made him feel safer. And so it was, it's really interesting to see how people do use their clutter in order to protect themselves. You see this also when someone lives with someone who's quite unhealthy. I'd love to say that if you're in an unhealthy relationship, you can just haul out. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's just not the case. And if you're living with someone who's quite toxic, having clutter around you can feel like a buffer, because it's easier to fight about the clutter than it is to fight about what's true. Or it's easier to feel like you have a layer of protection around you via the clutter, rather than having someone else have full access to you. And so it's a really interesting thing when we start to look at what's going on. I have an entire class called The Meaning of Stuff built around this. And it's all about helping identify the ways that your clutter is helping you and getting those needs met in a healthier, more direct way.
Oh, wow. All right. So at what point in this journey did you start realizing the psychological part of this clutter and start like putting all these things together and how helpful our clutter is for us? And when did that click and you kind of developed this as your strategy?
Day one. I mean, when you start organizing with someone, I knew right away that it's not about the stuff. It's never about the stuff. It's really about something bigger going on. And, I've said to assistants over the years who've come to work with me, I'm like, look, you can organize from here till the cows come home, but it's this career is about personalities, and it's about mental health, and it's about supporting people who are struggling. And so it was really clear very early on that this was much more deep than, at least for me, than just the simple boxes and labels. And so, but then the system, I have 10 steps that I use to help people get organized, and any of the listeners can download it at organizingiseasy.com, and that will basically teach you my methodology for how to get organized. I also have a whole, giant class around this also. It's so funny. We were never taught these skills as a kid. Like, this is not something that our parents were like, oh, I'd like to teach you. But through working with hundreds of people over decades, I refine these 10 steps so that, because people think about getting organized as like, oh, put things in boxes or
right.
Purging. That's only 2 steps. You also have to have the right tools with you. You also need to think about your maintenance plan. There's so many layers of this. And this is why we get overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed because it's not super simple and easy and like piece of cake. We get overwhelmed because we intuitively know that there's more going on. There's the emotional side, but then there's also the practical side as well. There's this practical side of, how do I manage an entire home full of stuff that feels absolutely stressful, overwhelming to me? And normally I have no guidance. So this is where we really want to launch in with having a lot of tools and skills.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be back with Star Hansen in just a few minutes. All right, we are back. I am Candace Eaton, and I am here with Star Hansen for the Marketing Corner. So, Star, we were talking over the break, and you said that there are different types of clutter.
Yes.
When I look at my desk, all I see is junk.
Yes.
So please elaborate and tell me, what are these different types of clutter? What should I be looking for?
There's 3 types of clutter.
Oh, 3.
Threes. Yeah, I know. I snuck one in. I didn't want to scare you at the break, but I'm not afraid to scare your listener.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sorry, everybody. I believe in you. You can handle it. So there's practical clutter, which is the clutter we were just talking about, which is just stuff that needs to get organized. And it's
right.
So the reason for clutter is really simple. You either have too much stuff and not enough space, right? Or you don't have systems, or the systems have a breakdown in them. So the way you solve that is either you either get rid of stuff, or you give it more space, or you upgrade or create systems. Very simple, seemingly, obviously, very simple. But it's not that simple, because we have this thing called activated clutter. And activated clutter is much more, there's more going on. This is the deeper needs that I was talking about earlier in the show.
Okay.
Where it's about how your clutter is meeting a need. How it's the stuff that feels like a landmine. You walk in to a room and you feel this hit of shame. You feel this overwhelm. You feel this stress. Right. You feel this grief. You come across a letter from an ex, and it just makes you break down, and then you set it back down and continue living your life so you can come across that letter another day because that was fun the first time. And so we have all these things that are buried in our clutter. Some objects are painful, and sometimes just the state of the clutter is painful. Maybe we're being judged by other people. Now, the third type of clutter is the very tricky type of clutter, and that's the super clutter. And that's the blend of the two. And this is why clutter is so difficult, because you look at the clutter and you say, I can totally organize my kitchen. I can absolutely organize my kitchen. It's not that hard. I love watching these TikToks about it. No problem. Then you get in and you start to work on it, but you find things from your mom who's passed away, or you find things that, maybe something that's molded and you feel ashamed about it. And then you get really stressed out. Or maybe you come across that your dishwasher is broken and that's too big of a project. You want to do it yourself, but you need to watch TikToks about it. And then you need to go find, it's like we can complicate things so much. And a lot of the people that I work with also have ADHD. So throw in a little neurospicy into this and it's a recipe for a real treat, because it's just really stressful. We have the internal struggle and the chaos inside, but then there's also these practical things. There's the practical organizing. There's any kind of block that gets thrown at us, as well as the emotional stuff. And the emotional stuff can be external from other people or, triggering certain items or times in our lives, but it also could be the way that we identify ourselves. I'm such a mess. I'm such a slob. There's something wrong with me. No one else has this clutter. And that way of talking to ourselves is like having a bully inside of your brain attacking you all the time. And the clutter becomes a bully also because it becomes a trigger for that. And that's what we're really working on, is trying to suss these out. It's okay to feel like you're a mess. We're not going to make that mean that clutter will always be here. You can feel like a mess and also learn skills to get organized. And my job is to help people separate the two and really be able to move into action, because most people who have clutter just feel stuck and stymied and overwhelmed. And so my job is to help separate those three different types of clutter chaos into a practical system that works for you.
Right on. All right. So let's see. How you said there's this emotional clutter, but you work with a lot of business people.
Yes.
What would be a business person's emotional clutter? Like I can see that in my house. Like I can look around, like you're talking about it and I'm thinking, yep, that and that and that. But like business wise, what's emotional clutter in someone's business?
So think about how many people you know who work in a corporate field. This is not even entrepreneurs. We're not even going to touch our little class of, little entrepreneurs. How many people that work in a corporate gig are doing the work of 2 to 3 people?
Most of them, right? That is not a healthy thing that we do because we feel safe and our needs are met and everything is peaceful. We do that when we have a feeling of lack or scarcity, or we're being bullied, or we feel anxious. It's generally an emotional, we take on that extra burden because of an emotional thing. And so the piles around you might be, yes, when we're talking about that practical clutter, we might need to find a better email system or a better sorting system or an action system. Most people don't have a task management strategy. So sometimes we just need something as simple and basic as a, action strategy. But a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, what am I running from? Why am I taking on so much? Why am I agreeing to be taken advantage of? Because, this is why quiet quitting was so big, because people knew they were doing too much and that it was inappropriate and they weren't being paid for it. Right. That is an emotional thing. So the idea that business is this sterile environment is absolutely not true. There's so much going on here. And so what we have to do is we have to start looking. And I don't walk into someone's office and say, tell me your, like lay down on the couch, tell me your greatest strife. But what I do is I look at what their repeating sentences are. I look and I'm listening for these clues of patterns, because what the clutter provides is this beautiful system for seeing patterns. Because you can say whatever you want to say, but your stuff can't lie to me. I can walk into someone's house or office and know within a minute what's going on in their life by what they have out and where they have it out. And so your stuff will really guide you home. And so by looking at what's being left out, by what's not getting done, by what gets done faster than anything else, like just looking at the patterns, that tells us a lot about where people are mentally, where they are with their intentions and their focus. Okay. So you had said before that, or when we were on one of the breaks, that you can use organization to improve your business or take yourself to the next level. How does someone do that?
Absolutely. So clutter again is this beautiful friend who's offering us insight and help. So when we're looking at the clutter, if you, like you were talking about papers, right? You're looking at piles of paper. If we were to take all those papers and lay them out according to category and really look at them, what percentage of those do you think really apply to your life today and where you're going tomorrow?
A very small amount.
Right. So my job is to help you release the things that don't fit anymore. And look, just me saying release the things that don't fit anymore, it's oversimplifying it.
Right.
You have emotional connection to those. You feel anxious or you feel stressed about not getting something done or you feel guilty about it. And you deserve to be heard for the feelings and emotions that you have around your stuff. If you don't have feelings and emotions around your stuff, good for you, fantastic, throw that stuff away and move on with your life, right? But if you do, honor them, because that's the only way you're going to be able to let them go is by greeting them, saying hello, and releasing them. Because unless we make them a friend, they're not going anywhere. If we haven't gotten the lesson, they're going to come back in a new form over and over again.
Right.
So my intention then is to take that 10%. And, with the 10 steps or anything else that I'm doing, my first question is always, what's your goal? Where are we going? Because we can't know how to get somewhere if we don't know where we're going.
Right.
And so I want to know, tell me about your photography. Tell me about what you're building in your life. What's your initiative for 2025? What's interesting for you? What inspires you? What makes you feel full of purpose? And let's build your systems, life, and strategy around that and anything. And this is especially with business. When you are holding on to items or projects or ideas that are really not going to go anywhere, that is costing you energy and time that you could be giving to things that are meaningful to you and are actually going to be applied now. And so part of it is, again, we're doing this rocking where we're creating systems so that if you have a future project that you really want to get to, but it's not going to be something that you get to for the foreseeable future, let's store that somewhere so it's not in your daily view so that you haven't quote unquote forgotten about it, but it's there when you want to recall it. Like I have 5 more books I want to write, but the truth is me having those like ideas for the books in front of me do not help me today sitting here talking to you. Do not help me tomorrow when I'm with a client. Do not help me when I'm at my keynote next week. I need to focus on what's in front of me and have systems that support me so that I can really take my life and my career to the next level.
Okay. So you help people develop those systems as well as helping them dig through the stuff.
Yes.
All right. Now, for those of us with the NeuroSpicy.
Yes, welcome. We love NeuroSpicy. You are welcome. You're genius.
Oh, sure. These steps, you have 10 steps, you said. If we're trying to utilize your 10 steps and we don't have you right there with us holding our hands, how do you suggest we actually get from step 1 to step 2 to step 3? Because I know that I get into things like that and I'm like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to get organized and I'll get through like step 1, step 2, and then lose interest or find something else. And then it's just another project in a random state of never having been completed.
Such a good question, Candace. So for my NeuroSpicy babies listening, it's really, really important that we stop trying to be neurotypical. It is okay that your brain does not work the way other people's brains work. It is just not a thing. And that's okay. We want this. Like, your brain is a superpower. And if I try to make you get really good at folding laundry and putting it away, you're wasting your power folding laundry. Like, that is absolutely not the most important thing that you could be doing. And so what we want to do is we want to be interested. So how you can apply the 10 steps is do it with someone else. Find someone else. And I always say work in 20-minute increments, because you can do anything for 20 minutes that might feel impossible to do for an hour or 4 hours.
Okay. That's a really good point. So we are fixing to go back to break here. I am Candace Eaton and we are here with Star Hansen. All right, we are back. I am Candace Eaton and I am here with Star Hansen, the Clutter Whisperer, and we are going to keep talking a little bit about this process and the 10 steps and how you stick to the 10 steps and actually get from step 1 and get to step 10 and actually complete this project. And you said it's not just the NeuroSpicy people who have a hard time with getting this organization thing down. You said it's common among many people that you will kind of get organized and then be like, oh, yay, I'm organized. And then it all comes back, which is a problem that I run into anytime I look at my desk. I'm like, okay, we're going to organize this. And My idea of organizing usually involves a trash bin at one end, and I just sweep it all off and call it done. But it comes back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's this idea, this perception that organizing should be one and done. I should do it one time. So first of all, especially people who are my neurospicy babies, you feel like you should have been organized 10 years ago and you are late. So you got to speed through this process really quickly because I got to get this done.
Right.
And, I always say you can do it one time really well, or you can do it 20 times. It's up to you. And and there it's tricky because I find for a lot of people they need to do it more than once. And there's this weird idea that we're failing if we do it more than once. So if you had me come in and organize your office with you, for example,
right,
the idea that we could get it done in one sitting, one time is absolutely not realistic because your office is not static because you are not static. You are changing and evolving and growing. And also, it is so rare to nail a system on the first try.
Okay.
Like, it's a great idea. It's a great concept. If you really know yourself, we might be able to, but it is so rare to be able to, like, conceptually from outside of your workday, nail that system on the first go. It's just not practical. What we need to do is set up a system and then have you work with the system and then see what needs to change, what needs to get better, what's not working, what's really working. I always say everybody has the seed of their organizing system already in their clutter. So we're just looking for what works for you and building on that. And it is true. What's tricky with people who are neurodivergent is that you tend, especially my ADHDers, you tend to be into the exciting parts. You're really excited when something starts. You're not so excited when it ends. It feels like it's torture having to do those little granular organizing. It's just the worst. And so, look, we just want to acknowledge, like, your brain may always feel that way. And so how do we build crutches so that you are supported in knowing that this works? Like, for example, I am a verbal processor. So when I start to work on a book or a keynote or something, I have people that I call and I will talk with them. I will pay them to talk at them and with them for hours because I require another human to interact with. Now, I could feel ashamed that I can't do it by myself in a vacuum, or I can pay the money and go about my life. And it's the same thing. So with people who are neurodivergent, something like body doubling is a huge process that can help. So I have an organizing membership, and that's what we do every single month. Every month we get together and we do organizing projects together on Zoom. And it's so helpful because, people will, it's funny because we'll set up like a 2-hour block. No one wants to end at 2 hours. No one. Everybody's like, can we stay longer? The first time we did it was during the pandemic. We were on there for 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
8 hours. And people, even then we were like, but I don't want to go, but I should make my family dinner, but I don't want to. Because when you're with other people, you're more focused.
Right.
It feels more engaging and more fun. If you have a feeling or emotion, or if you're stuck on a practical system, people can jump in and help you. So it's actually really beneficial to work in groups and and have accountability, because we need that. And, it's my job as an organizer is to try to make it interesting, try to keep you engaged, try to make it fun. It's oftentimes we're punishing ourselves. I have clients who will absolutely not celebrate the progress that they've made. They feel like until their house is completely done, dialed in, beautiful, home and gardens ready, that they do not deserve to be celebrated. And most people, especially neurospicy people, need a treat early on, frequently, or before they even get started. And so if you are delaying your gratification and you're telling yourself that you haven't earned it yet, of course it feels punishing. Who wants to play that game? I don't want to go where people are being mean to me. And so we have to find ways to make the process of organizing fun and engaging versus it being a form of torture, which is how it feels to most people.
True. Agreed. That's why it just gets swept off into the bin, because I'm like, you know what? 5 minutes, boom, done.
And let's be real. Like, a lot of the stuff that is in our homes is not that important. So if we picture that there's 10% or less, 10% is generous. I would say it's more 2%. 2% of the items that are on your desk, in your email, in your home are actually relevant. Like, if we go through your email and we had thousands of emails, we're going to have so few. It's like pictures. You're a photographer and you take, and I've done so many photo shoots, for PR. You take thousands of pictures and you use 2. It's like, that's exactly what it is in the world of, organizing. It's all this stuff feels important because it's connected to your hopes, dreams, and something bigger. And so what we want to do is, like, if you're holding on to things because you're keeping quotes because you want to write a book or do this thing, We want to create a space, a system for that stuff to live so it stops living everywhere. Because part of us is always afraid we're going to forget. I don't want to forget that I'm going to do this thing and it's going to help inspire me. But
Right.
it's also slowing you down. And so how do we create systems again that are serving your greater purpose without costing you not getting things done in a timely amount of time and feeling really good when you're working on these things?
Okay. I know one of my things when I am organizing, and as we've already covered, my idea of organizing is just throw it away. Um,
Effective for some people. It's okay. It's fair. It's okay.
but maybe it's just the whole throw it away thing. I have a hard time with like feeling wasteful when I'm getting rid of stuff. Like
Yes.
there's stuff that you have to get rid of, and even if I don't have a huge emotional connection to that piece, like I've got a pile of fabric. We were talking about my sewing project that I just started this morning that may never ever get completed, right? I've got a pile of fabric that I don't necessarily have an emotional attachment to the fabric, but getting rid of it makes me feel wasteful. Like how do we get past that?
My mom is a quilter. You do not throw away scraps or fat quarters or fabric. I've worked with, with people who Lego. You don't throw away Legos. Like look, so I want to be devil's advocate a little bit here. And I want to say, if you're a creative person and stuff fuels that energy for you, I'm okay. Like my mom was telling me yesterday, she has a quilt she's been working on for 8 years. It's
Oh, wow.
really a cool quilt. And it's like hanging and right there. And it's so beautiful. And I was like, who are you giving that to? And she's like, no one, it's mine. But
Right.
it's because she loves making it, because it's fun for her. And I would never tell someone who's creative, oh yeah, you should have a super organized crafting room or sewing room or, photography studio. Be in your chaos. Chaos is creative. Chaos is creativity. Like, allow there to be spaces in your home and life that are in that creative energy, because it's actually really serving you. If you were the most organized, like imagine trying to do a sewing project from Target. Like that would be not
Right.
inspiring whatsoever.
Yeah.
But we want you to have that fun energy. But then there are places, what we want to do is not like layer all clutter is the same. All clutter is bad, and every space should look like a Home and Gardens, magazine and whatever. No, where are the spaces that you want that wild energy? Like, to me, if you invite me over to your house and you're a baker and I come over and your kitchen is perfect, I'm like a little bummed because I'm like, man, she cleaned for me. Like, I'm not inner circle. It's like, but if I come over and you have 4 different things that you're baking, I feel like I'm part of your family. I'm not judging the flour on the counter and the floor and the stuff in the sink.
Right.
I feel like welcomed, and I'm part of your creative process in this moment. And
Okay.
that feels cool. So I think there is a part of us that needs to stop shaming our clutter and instead really embrace it and say, like, what if what I'm doing is okay? Now, look, there are going to be places where maybe it's not okay, but there are a lot of places where your clutter is actually okay. It's okay to have this creative energy going. It's okay to not need everything clean and tidy every minute of the day, because that's just boring. Let's
Right.
just call that boring. It is. It's just, no one wants to live in Costco. That does not sound interesting in the slightest. Well, maybe.
Costco.
Maybe if I can reenact the mattress scene from Elf, maybe that would be interesting.
Okay, there you go. So what you're saying is it's cool to have a doom room.
Yes.
All right.
The room of requirements, as Harry Potter would say. Imagine it's like, so I call it the room of doom, the room of requirements. It's okay to need a space that is not fully dialed in yet. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay to have that, because this is a journey. So what I would say about organizing is, it is not a task to complete. It's not a one and done. Imagine that you are going to be, for a lot of people who've been struggling with clutter for decades, you might be doing this for the rest of your life. And I know that sounds horrible, but you also have to brush your teeth every day
This
for the
is
rest
true.
of your life, and you have to take showers. And what if we start to look at organizing as a self-care process rather than some task that we should have gotten done 10 years ago? Because we live in a consumer-driven society that is just going to keep throwing stuff. I'm a minimalist who lives out of a suitcase, and it takes so much effort to keep things out of my suitcase because
Right.
of the world we live in.
Right.
And it's not easy. So, and people are going to die. You're going to inherit things are going to change. You're going to upsize your home, downsize your home, change what you do for a living, need different tools, take on new hobbies. It's never going to be done. And so stop looking at it as though you're a failure if you will always have organizing projects, because I don't want you waiting to live your life until you're perfectly organized, because that day may or may not come. But no matter what, you deserve to live a life now. And organizing is just that. It's self-care. It's a process that we use to take care of ourselves. It is just like brushing your teeth. It is just like taking a shower. It's just caring. You would never not vacuum your floors, right? This is just
Right.
caring for your home, caring for your body. It's all wrapped into one.
All right. Well, we have a little over a minute left, so I want to make sure that we have thanked all of the sponsors for the Marketing Corner. First, we're going to go with thanking our sound engineer John for coming in on a Saturday and hanging out with us. Also, we are sponsored by Bill Netherton of Professional Bartenders Unlimited, David Bradley of Medicare A to Z, Candace Eaton, hey, that's me, of C. Eaton Photography, Jamar Jordan, the tax specialist, Roger LaFay of LaFay Processing, Danny McPadden of Last Bridge Media, Mark Weiss, Sales Performance Strategies, Juan J.D. Delgado of Roofs Are Hot, Jose Oliver of Awakening Minds LLC, and Mo Russo of Executive Business Coach. And Star, before we take off, can you tell us how we can reach out to you?
Yes, you can find me at starhansen.com/podcast. You can get a free copy of my book and learn a little bit more.
Stuff.
Free stuff is the best, and get on your own organizing journey. Thanks so much for having me, Candace. It's been fun.
Thank you for being here with me this morning, Star. Have a great day.
The nation's largest suppressor dealer, they're ready to make your silencer buying journey as simple and pain-free as possible. Call them today at 866-640-3270 to get the process started, or visit silencercentral.com. Be sure to check silencercentral.com to confirm if owning a silencer is legal in your state. I try to live my life without regrets, but as one gets older, there's a tendency to reflect back on life, to wonder about paths never taken, how my life might have been different. If I had accepted that scholarship to Boston College rather than working my way through school at the University of Arizona, what would have been different in my life? What if I had accepted that law school offer even if the school was not on my list of preferred institutions? It has often crossed my mind that perhaps I should have accepted that Air Force recruiter's pitch to become an engineer. Lord knows, later in life I could have used the discipline. But in the wisdom that comes with 17 whole years on the planet, I wanted to be a fighter pilot or nothing. Sometimes life gives you second chances. And today's guest gives me hope. Lanny Snodgrass joined the Army at the age of 63. For those of you keeping score at home, that's 441 in dog years. It gave him a second chance to fulfill one of his lifelong dreams, and in a course of experiences, inspired him to rethink the age limits we have placed on service to our nation. Lanny's military adventure and his interesting thoughts on how we might address the current recruiting crisis are summarized in his book, The Ageless Call to Serve, Rethinking Military Service for a Changing World. Welcome to American Warrior Radio, Dr. Lanny Snodgrass, Lieutenant Colonel, retired. Lanny, you wanted to serve early in life, but due to a football injury, you were deemed unfit, as I understand it.
Yes, that's correct. There's kind of a meaningless event, and in that it was a scrimmage. I played that in games, but have this happen in the scrimmage, that was kind of unusual.
And how did you, this opportunity, talked about, joining the military much later in life, how did you find out about this opportunity to maybe get a second chance at serving our country?
Well, at 60, I had a colleague of mine. He was a nurse that had been in the Navy for several years, and he talked to me about joining up. I said, really? I said, at this age, 60 years old, I'm not sure, his name is Bobby. I said, Bobby, I just don't see how that's possible. Oh, yeah, he said, why don't you go down and see a recruiter? Because, this idea of joining the military had been something that's really sticking in my brain, a feeling that I was not, I was a raw person. I wasn't complete. And this became much more intensive. This feeling as I worked with veterans in active duty, listening to the sorrows, listening to the kind of trauma that they had gone through, the PTSD symptoms, anxiety, depression, and some moral injuries. Some of those have moral injury. They can spend the rest of their life in a cerebral foxhole. But not ever wearing the uniform. That was something that aided me. I felt that as much as I had spent as many years in treating these service members, that I owed it. I owed it to them, I owed it to myself. Um, and so that kind of discomfort chased me through most of my career. And so at age 63, there we are. It was 60, of course, when I did go to the recruiter. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you can join." Sure. So he had me sign all these papers and scheduled the physical exam. I passed the physical exam. And then I did the swear in, and I get a call from headquarters in St. Louis. They say, "You can't join. You met the maximum age for retirement." I said, "Yeah, but I just took the oath 2 months ago." "Oh, no, your recruiter made a mistake." So it was quite a long time between then and the time the military said, "Okay, you can join." We're talking over 3 years. During those 3 years, I developed, unfortunately, a heart condition where I had skip beats. It's known as sick sinus syndrome. It's a situation where it was so bothersome because the skip beats were occurring about 3.5 seconds, 3.25 seconds. It kept me awake at night, trying to make up for the skip beats. My left ventricle is felt like it's coming out of my chest practically. So I need the pacemaker, and sent my medical records in to headquarters, and they said, "No, we need you down at Fort Sam. You know, if I get a pacemaker, you can't serve." Well, the average lifespan of somebody of my condition not getting this corrected with a pacemaker is about 5 years. But I wanted to join the military